Hello everyone, and welcome back to another EU4 guide. I'm Lord Forwind, and this time we're going over Ayutthaya. So if you do like these guides, please do like, subscribe, and all of that stuff. I do appreciate it. It encourages me to do more of them. So anyway, let's jump into this nation. So Ayutthaya is the strongest nation in the Indochina region at the start of the game. They may not look like the largest. This nation looks larger up here, but in fact they are the nominal strongest. Mainly because they have two subjects at the start of the game. They've got Vassal up north of Sup Dai. I have no idea how to say it. And down here, Ligor. They are very powerful. Their whole gameplay seems to revolve mostly around having subjects and then stealing the development for your capital, which can hit absolutely absurd heights. So let's quickly go over the nation and its setup, and then we'll go over the missions because that will take the longest. So you start off with a very good king, and you start off with a very good heir. Interestingly enough, your heir is also the ruler of this kingdom up, or the heir to this kingdom up here. So when this guy dies, your heir will actually rule this kingdom, and then if your ruler dies, he'll rule both kingdoms. However, I've never actually gotten the event. Supposedly, there's an event that unifies the two. I just find it easier to annex it in the 4 years it takes till you can annex it. And it happens basically instantly because it just happens instantly because you have cores on it. So they're interesting. The one to the south, Ligor here. It's kind of interesting. They will basically serve as free cannon fodder, and if you go south to war with Malacca and stuff, they'll serve as your first line of defense. They will also actually do a very good job, I have found, handling all the little nations down here that tend to navally invade you. So they're pretty useful. These guys up here tend to just accompany you in your wars. So in terms of government, they start off under the mandala system, which of course reduces your governing capacity but causes more income from vassals and your vassals to contribute more to your force limit. By that it means basically by having a vassal you get a certain amount of force limit for them depending on them. This doubles it. It's quite useful. It allows you to field a very large army without necessarily owning tons of land. They also have the level 2 new reform, the Aparaja succession. I'm probably saying that wrong, which is amazing level 2 reform. The only one that gets close to it is the manpower. I like it better because it gives prestige, it gives legitimacy, and it means that your heirs almost always have 100% claim when they succeed to the throne. So it just keeps your kingdom much more stable. In terms of ideas, they have one of the most interesting starts. They have cavalry combat ability, but more importantly, they have liberty desire from subject developed -20. It basically means you can have larger subjects and they'll be more loyal. It proves to be very handy because the entire mission tree of Ayutthaya is basically conquer tiny bit of land and then basically just subjugate everything else. You get subjugation CBs in the mission tree like crazy. I think they probably have the most subjugation missions now. The first idea here is White Elephant, 20 income from vassals. They're the White Elephant Kingdom, which is kind of obvious. They also have national manpower plus 25, which is nice. Diplomatic reputation of 1. Merc maintenance of -15. Improve relations plus 30, which is really useful. Development costs -10%. And harsh treatment costs -20. That's not overwhelmingly strong, but it can be useful. And then for the ending, they get diplomatic annexation costs -15. So basically, once you complete their tree, the goal is basically at that point to annex all your vassals and become huge. You do start as a tributary of the Ming. As long as you pay your tribute and you're a large enough and prosperous enough nation, it's not really too hard to pay it. The Ming will protect you. Although, to be fair, most of the nations you'll be fighting over here are also protectorates of the Ming. But you don't have to worry about any invaders from the south or the northwest for some time. Not that they're going to attack you anyway. At some point, the Ming will start to collapse. I've seen it happen in a couple years. It's absolutely crazy. They seem to be very unstable in the new patch. And at that point, you can break free if you'd like to. I do not recommend you break free, though, until you've conquered all of this area. Otherwise, you will be going to war with the Ming because they will be defending their tributaries, assuming they keep their tributaries, of course. Let's see. Well, you can start off by passing a decision here immediately. Monastic education, +1 missionary strength, +1 max promoted cultures. I would recommend you do that. At some point, when you get a neighboring country that's not in your Eastern religion group, you can also pass this one, +2 missionary strengths, -1 tolerance of heathens. You'll basically have +3 missionary strength and should be able to convert most things with ease. You start off as Theravada Buddhism, so you get extra tolerance of heretics and you get cheaper advisor costs. So that Enforcer Heritage costs you some relations with heathens, but it does not affect your relations with heretics, which will never be fully tolerated, but at least they won't cause too much trouble. Let's see what else you got going for you. You've got some interesting culture groups here. You've got the Siamese as your default, because this is modern-day Siam area. You've got the Mon culture that once you get 100 Diplo points, you can embrace. As well as the Khmer once you get some more development, which you can either get from conquering the Khmer or by annexing them. It's not a big rush. You only have basically 2 Khmer provinces, but you do have a handful more Mon. Getting them tolerated will just give you some more productivity from these 3 provinces. So let's see. Oh yes, you should at the start of the game go here and either develop once, which is a possibility, like that. That will get rid of your crown lands, but you always want to steal just a little bit of crown lands while you've got 50 loyalty. That will boost you to 35. You do it again, then you can give out the privilege to get admin power or military power. Diplo power isn't as important, so I would probably do admin then military, but it's up to you. You want to give your monastic orders and your other estates some privileges. You want to do oversight by the monastic order for the monastic orders. That's about all you'll need to do there. For the nobility, you want to give them monopoly on gemstones. You want to take strong duchies here. This will lower liberty, desire, and subjects by 10%, which stacks nicely with your starting stuff. Plus, it gives you more diplomatic relations, which is always good. Just be aware that if you get rid of, if you don't meet the requirements for this, like having no subjects, it will lose the strong duchies. So you want to keep at least 1 to 2 vassals at any point. So you keep this modifier. It's a pretty good one. You also want to do right of council. And you want to pass increased levies. This will give you 8% more manpower at the cost of 3% tax. The reason you want to do this is fighting in Southeast Asia is all jungle. So the attrition rate is absolutely horrific. Usually the wars seem to come down to who has more manpower at the end of the war than anything else. In terms of merchant guilds, give them monopoly on textiles. Take tropical city planning so you can develop quicker. You can take or not take private trade fleets. It's up to you. I tend to take it because it gives some more trade power, and there's not much else you're going to give to the merchant guilds anyway, and then give them free enterprises. As a result of that, your merchant guilds will have a 68% equilibrium. Your nobility will have 67, and your monastic guilds will have 49. So the issue is the monastic guilds. You could theoretically give them monastic order land rights here, but that would cost you crown lands, so I don't recommend it. You could also do monastic temples here. This might be the next best one to do. It doesn't cost you any crown lands, and you can always revoke the absolutism later. So if you do that, all your estates will have over 50 loyalty, which makes it much easier to constantly take crown land for them. What else? I think that's the vast majority of the start. If you want to get off to the best start possible, go up to Sothokuhai, however you say this, I know I'm saying it wrong, and concentrate development in the lands. You'll steal 9 development from them. Go in here, down in here, do the same thing to Ligor. They are going to be somewhat unhappy with you, so you're going to go and do own subject countries. They won't be disloyal, but they will be unhappy. And once you get the Khmer as your subject, they will be rebellious. And getting the Khmer as your subject is the first order of business. So you want to actually march both of these armies down here to this one province on the coast, so it's got a higher supply limit. And then you want to build as many infantry as you can to start. And that will give you a powerful starting army. You want to take your fleet, assign it to protecting trade, all your standard stuff, trying to get the most income as possible. The Siam trade node is actually pretty good because you can divert trade from Canton. I recommend moving your merchant from Burma to Canton when you get enough trade range to actually do so, which you don't at the start of the game. And other stuff, you should check to see if you get any good military advisors. The national manpower guy is actually really good. Discipline and morale would be better, but the manpower will definitely help with the wars. You want to hire that person, either now or you want to wait until you've maxed out your army. That's usually a good one. You want to go over here, and if possible, you want to ally Pegu. The reason you want to ally Pegu is otherwise they tend to join your enemies, like the Khmer or Len Dang. Saying that one wrong too. So you want to ally them. They will not contribute much to your wars, but more importantly, they won't cause you trouble. The other one you might want to consider allying is the Champa down here. Otherwise, they tend to get killed by the Dai Viet, who then get much stronger. Eventually, you can make them your subject. If you improve relations, keep them happy, and just grow, eventually they will submit and join you. But more importantly, they will prevent the Khmer from getting larger, and they will prevent the Dai Viet from getting larger. And the goal here is to conquer the Khmer as fast as possible, and that brings us to the mission tree. So the mission tree is a reasonably large one. Most of these I'm not going to go into because they basically just give you permanent claims or subjugation CBs on stuff. You want to use the subjugation CBs, obviously, as much as possible. Over here, let's just go down the left side first. We'll go down the middle one after. So the first one, it wants you to concentrate your development's capital to above 30, and you have to use concentrate development 3 times. We've already just done it twice. You're already over 30 development. Once you complete that, you get 100 diplo power. It's very useful. This one, once you have 3 vassals and your capital is development 40, which is not hard when you conquer the Khmer. You can then fire this one. It's up to you if you want to fire it immediately. It'll give you plus 33% income from vassals. Obviously, the longer you delay it and the more vassals you get, the stronger this is. But it does give you a mass influx of cash at the start of the game. Over here, if you send an ambassador to Japan and improve relations with them enough, you can get a pretty good general, really good general for the start of the game. And you will get a Japanese volunteers mercenary group, which is quite useful. And down here further, if you get the Grand Palace of Bangkok to tier 3, and you have the modifier Emerald Buddha, and you've completed Cultivated the Mandala, you will get, to the end of the game, 10% construction cost reduction and Great Project upgrade cost negative 25%. This basically requires you to spend 2,000 gold developing the Grand Palace. But then at that point, you want to do all these upgrades. And once you do, you can upgrade all the other great projects in the area and get the massive benefits those bring. At the bottom here, you've got a 50 development. You can get the City of the World's Desire for cheaper dev costs in all provinces till the end of the game and some nice prestige. Continuing down this, if you get Cultivate the Mandala, Monastic Orders, Loyalty to 65 or greater, and 3 Stability, you can do Brahmins at Court, which will basically make it impossible for you to convert Sikh and Hindu provinces. I tend to turn it off once I get this because I like to have everything of one religion. But this will basically mean that you don't have any religious unity issues, although you might have province unrest issues. Down here, you got the Siamese Revolution. There is an event in the 1600s or so that will give you the Siamese Revolution. You can choose to be isolationist or open. There's an event chain. It's kind of interesting. Won't spoil it for you. But if you do complete that, you get 200 admin power. And then if you have the development of 500 of all your lands, and you have absolutism of 75, which is not hard to get, and you're not a subject nation, which means you have to break with China, you can then turn into an empire, and you'll get a cool event there, Ayutthayan absolutism. So you've got quite a few stuff. I should recommend the Siamese Revolution requires no Western nation to earn any province in the East Indies subcontinent. Just remember the subcontinent is really big. So basically you have to kick the Europeans out of this area. It can be very difficult. One of the easiest ways to do that and prevent it is to get a colonist early on and colonize all these small provinces as soon as you can, which will prevent, or at least these provinces here, you probably won't get to these, to prevent the Europeans from just setting up a colony and messing you up that way. Now, the right side of the tree, we'll go down these middle two in a minute. This one, you have to have a fleet larger than Malacca, who's kind of one of your rivals here. It depends on, oops, I didn't mean to unpause. Depends on how large Malacca gets. You get a CB to subjugate them. If recommend you kind of do this relatively early on, otherwise they can grow to the point that you can't subjugate them in one war. But if you do complete all of that and you've subjugated them, then you get permanent claims on this whole island basically and some navy tradition. And then if you control all of this, trading spice, strongest trade power, and you own a lot of this, you'll get control of the spice trade and the Siamese trade dominance, which will give you 5 admin efficiency for the rest of the game and give you more permanent claims here. So basically this side of the tree encourages you to go south, and these ones require you, encourage you to go north, and these encourage you to build internally. So let's go down this one quickly. Inherit your vassal up to the north. It's not hard to do, as I said. Once you do, you get a subjugation CB on these guys, which is nice. And then once you've subjugated them, you'll complete this mission. You'll get a subjugation CB on Pegu, your ally. So wait to pop this until you no longer need them as your ally. Now, there is another event that will fire, and it is when you conquer this province right here. They own the Emerald Buddha. When you sack or take this province, you will capture it, and you will take it back to your capital. It's a really cool thing. It'll give you a modifier. I'll show you the modifier later in a save game I have. But it's rather cool to have. It basically gives you a way to control your karma more. Further down, if you've conquered the Pegu area and you've embraced the Mon culture, you can do protected Mon culture, get 1 max promoted culture. So there's really no reason not to embrace the Mon culture because it will basically give you another free one. And then it wants you to continue deeper into Burma here, conquer that, get permanent claims on all of Burma. Once you've invaded Burma, you will get permanent claims on a region here, this region here. And then once you've invaded that, along with the other side tree, you get to defy China, get permanent claims on China, and then if you want, you can take the mandate or destroy China as well. Be aware that if you take the mandate, you have to deal with all the Celestial Empire mechanics, which can be annoying. Now, the center tree, which is already completed at the start of the game, is basically as soon as you click this, you will get a subjugation CB on the Khmer. Now, you don't want to click this immediately because the CB only lasts a certain amount of time. However, you need to click it before your army tradition falls below 12. So you've got about 2 to 3 years to do this. I would recommend waiting a year or two, build up your army, get into a good position, let the Khmer suffer their disaster, which will make it much harder for them to muster a defense before you invade them. Once you invade them, you're going to want to make them your subject. Don't really take any land from them. I mean, you could take this one if you really wanted to. I recommend leaving them their land, just subjugating them. They will be rebellious, so you'll have to make them happy, and you have to improve relations with them a lot. But you then can steal their development, which will boost your capital to over 50. And once you've conquered them, you will get an event that basically reduces liberty desire in all your subjects by 20% temporarily, which will make the Khmer loyal and will also keep your other 2 subjects loyal, even if you have taken development from them. Then you've got a mission up here. This one's a weird one. Basically, it wants you to divide this country by letting another country own part of their primary Lao culture. Right now there's 2. So basically you want to invade it and either give the land to the Khmer or take the land, 1 province for yourself. And then at that point you will trigger this event, which will give you a subjugation CB on this one. And this hard to see one, it kind of blends in. it's guaranteed by 2 nations, but it's not hard to conquer. You could subjugate them, but it's a 1 province nation, so it's easier just to actually annex it, in all honesty. Once you've done all of that and you've subjugated them, you'll get a CB on the Dai Viet, which will give you a great position there. Once you've subjugated Vietnam, you'll get a permanent claim on South China and then complete these. So basically, this mission tells you to go east and conquer this area. There's nothing for the Champa or these little 3 miners over here, which is why I recommend you try and ally and then vassalize the Champa if you want to keep your goal of having an immense empire of vassals going. Now, also, Ayutthaya has a achievement for them. It's the White Elephant achievement, I believe. That's what it's called. Let me double check. Yes, the White Elephant. You have to own all of Indochina and Burma as core provinces, which basically means annex all your vassals. The region is Burma here and Indochina here. It's not overwhelmingly hard to do. You'll get Indochina just from your initial conquest. And Burma takes a little bit more effort because sometimes this one here will be under the control of either Bengal, Jaunpur, or Orissa and be quite a war to take. It's not overwhelmingly hard. You can do it. If you get lucky, Arakan here will invade Bengal. They tend to do it if you ally them. I didn't recommend allying them because Pegu tends to be more useful, but it's up to you. They're about the same strength in terms of countries, even though Pegu should be much larger. So once you've procced this start, you want to invade the Khmer within like less than a year after doing so. You do want to build up to your total force limit. Remember how we started building like 7 units? You're going to want to get to 29. In my experience, the Khmer tends to ally Lana or Lang, Zhang, or Pegu. If they ally Pegu, well, it's tough anyway. But since you want to rival the Khmer regardless, they tend not to ally them. And if they do ally Lana up here, that's even better because then you can invade and steal the Emerald Buddha at very early on. I don't recommend subjugating them. Subjugating the Khmer alone in the war will cause a tiny coalition. It shouldn't be a big threat. You're definitely the strongest nation in the area. Just be aware that the AE of expanding this area is absolutely horrific. It's why the CB of subjugation, I think, is so common rather than actual conquering, because it is really painful. Obviously, at some point, you'll be large enough you can kind of ignore AE, but just be aware that just taking the Khmer is painful. You can't take both Lana and the Khmer in one war without getting kind of a mass coalition called on you. Unless you're reckless, in which case you do it anyway. Let's load up my saved game I did recently as a test. I did a couple tests, but this is the one I felt went the best. I've managed to... it's only, 19 years in the game, and I've already subjugated this area here. Also, as I said, you can see the Ming are just absolutely collapsing. It's kind of weird. So I annexed the vassal to the north, I subjugated the Khmer, I allied Pegu, I helped the Champa beat up the Dai Viet. Then I invaded Lan Yang up here, and I fed 3 provinces to the Khmer. The Khmer tend to not like this nation, so they tend to put claims on these provinces. It was a very simple matter of feeding the land to them. And once that's done, our ability to keep invading is easier. Actually, I made a mistake talking about this one. You basically want to release a country because the primary culture has to be Lao culture. So what you actually need to do is release a nation, which you can do with ease. You can release Champasak in the initial war. Unlike what I did, I conquered land I really should have released. I did remember that. You can also release other ones like Lu Prabang and stuff. It's not really hard to do, and I do recommend you do it. Also, our capital is 55 development, which is insane. Here is the Emerald Buddha modifier. It's actually not a great work, even though it sounds like it should be. So right now, it gives yearly prestige plus 0.5 and a monthly negative karma of 10%. This basically allows me to constantly have the karma ticking down, because most of the events that give you positive karma give you prestige. However, you can also renovate the Emerald Buddha Shrine for a small cost and flip it so that the karma is positive. It costs you gold, and you can keep doing this decision over and over. I did it like 4 times till I figured out what was going on. Wasted a ton of cash. But basically, it allows you to control your karma, have it ticking positive or ticking negative. It's quite a useful little thing. It doesn't make a big difference, but over time, it can keep you in that nice central karma range. As you can see, what I've already completed. Obviously, there would be more, but 19 years, we're already up to 240 development. We control the Khmer, who's loyal. We still own Lagor. We're easily the most powerful nation in the area. China's collapsing, as I said, so we could almost stop being their tributary as well. It's really easy. This is definitely the easiest nation in the Majahapat expansion patch. The Leviathan expansion, the Majahapat patch. It's pretty easy to play them. The one thing that is important to talk about is the Grand Palace of Bangkok down here. You don't start with it anywhere, but as you build it up, you'll get yearly absolutism, governing capacity, then vassal force limit contribution, and finally, one of the best ones, you get aggressive expansion reduction, vassal force limit contribution, absolutism, and governing capacity. Now, some of you may have seen this and said, oh, that seemed to be different. Paradox just, as of like 4 hours of me recording this, weakened all the monuments in the game to make them more balanced. They were way too broken. Like Angkor Wat was 15 tech. It's now only 10 tech. So just be aware that that has happened. And I think that's it for Ayutthaya. By all means, enjoy them. Enjoy conquering Southeast Asia. Get that white elephant achievement. They're quite a fun nation. They're extraordinarily easy to play and get through the reforms very quickly because obviously you don't expand much. You'll notice I've only taken 1 province and just annexed a vassal up here. They're fun. They're easy. They have really good ideas for having a network of vassals and building tall. Not so great on the conquering stuff, which means you're going to want to take defensive ideas to start, pretty much as a rule in Southeast Asia for the reduced attrition, the attrition for enemies, the morale, and the maneuver. It's probably worth you consider taking expansion ideas just to colonize these islands, but also, I always forget to mention this, because the merchant guilds down here, tropical city planning, does increase the chance that you can use the settler to develop internally and get development. By that I mean you go up here, promote settlement growth. It will help with that. It will also help with your colonizing. You can get a lot of free development from using two settlers to just develop your small, poor regions, of which you actually have a fair amount. It's not like you have tons of development in your outlying lands. And as you take over lands, they're pretty poor development too, 5 or 6. You can do pretty well on that front. I recommend at some point you take influence ideas just to stack the diplomatic annexation costs with your own. You'll get 40% cheaper annexation. It's going to help a lot. Plus the benefits to vassal force limit, unjustified demand, and tribute mean you'll get a ton of money. It'll be easy to annex them and incorporate them into your empire. And overall, you'll do a really good job at expanding. Also probably worth taking admin ideas for the governing capacity plus 25% to help counteract the mandala system's negative 33% penalty. It will help with that. Another thing you may want to consider is using the new centralization mechanic on a province, which you do by clicking on the province, going to the building, and over here, this tiny little one here increases the amount you can build upwards. So this is expanding your infrastructure. But if you go to this page, you can then centralize the state using government reform progress. Just be aware that if you do this, you can build tall, but the cost of governing goes up and is not fully counteracted by centralizing the state. But centralizing the state is probably worth doing, especially on your most developed provinces. It reduces it by 20. This increases it by 50. So just be aware of it. But it allows you to play very tall in your central areas. You can centralize, improve the infrastructure, and then expand. Definitely a country that takes advantage of the new centralization, expand infrastructure, and pillage development. Basically, every war that you don't take, every nation that you don't vassalize or take land from in a war, you want to pillage their capital. It's very easy to get this over 100 development and by 1500 or by even 1550. It's really broken right now. So anyway, that is Ayutthaya. Sorry it dragged on a little bit longer than I thought. I thought of some more new stuff. Hopefully it helps you play better, even though the nation's already super strong. Good luck with your conquests. Dominate everything. Become Chinese emperor. Just in general, have fun. And beware, the Europeans are coming. See you guys all in another guide video. Please do like, subscribe if you haven't done so. And I'll see you all then. Bye for now.